Ryan Mesina on here. He's going to be talking about Stephen Covey's material, Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. When Robert Allen was going to college, Bob's 11 years older than I am, but he was a teacher assistant to Stephen Covey. Bob became very active in real estate, did extremely well, wrote a book, and was a national bestseller. And Stephen Covey asked Bob for advice. And then Stephen created his book, The Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. My neighbor helped do some editing on it, and I think they've sold like 40 million copies or some crazy number. But he's touched people's lives all over the world, and we study successful people. So I've got Ryan here, and we're gonna jump into Stephen Covey's Seven Habits and go from there. So Ryan, go ahead and take it away.
Thanks, Tom. We truly have the best-selling authors in our foundation, don't we? We're very blessed to have these people here. Welcome. This is actually the second, I would say, segment or session of the Seven Habits of Highly Effective People of Stephen Covey. If you're wondering if we have this on our site, we have it. It's on 3.3. You can just check it there and learn more about it. Last time I talked about the first habit. Habit number one, be proactive. There are seven habits here. First one is be proactive. Second is to begin with the end in mind. And this is the habit that we're going to talk about tonight. And then third, put first things first. Fourth, think win-win. Fifth, seek first to understand, then to be understood. Six, synergize. Seven, sharpen the saw. And if you remember, I also showed this visual framework last time, and it looks like this. This is actually a diagram that shows a journey from being dependent to independent and being interdependent. As you can see here, there is the first stage here, the pre-growth stage here, which is the dependence. Our effectiveness is limited because we haven't yet developed personal responsibility, but it's important because it's the baseline from which growth begins. And we can move from being dependent to independence only if we develop these three habits right here. And we're done talking about habit number one, which is to be proactive. Now we are on the second habit, which is begin with the end in mind. And as we master these three habits, that's the time that we're going to gain private victory. So it looks like that. As I said, we're not going to be discussing all the habits here. We're going to do one habit at a time. We talked about habit number one, which is be proactive. It's I truly believe that highly proactive people don't just sit around and wait for things to happen, but proactive people, they do something to make things happen. Now let's talk about habit number two, begin with the end in mind. And I want you to pause for a minute here, and I want you to imagine something here. I want you to imagine that you're going to a funeral of a loved one. You prepared, you drove there, and as you walk inside a building, the chapel, you see flowers. Perhaps you heard the very, silent organ music that's playing. And you also saw your families and your friends being there. And as you walk down the front of the room, and as you look at inside a casket, you suddenly come to face yourself. It was you who is inside a casket. And then you sat and waited for the service to begin. Now, as you look at the program, you saw that there are like four speakers there. First is from your immediate family, or extended, probably your mom or your dad, one of your siblings, your cousins, or your aunts or uncle. And the second speaker would be from your friends. And the third speaker would be someone from your work, probably your boss or your one of your coworkers. And then the fourth speaker is one of your one from your church, for example, or any organization you belong to. That's very important for you. Now the question is, what do you want these people to talk about you? Um, what kind of father or mother or husband and wife would you like them to describe you? Or what kind of son or daughter or a friend or cousin? Um, what kind of coworker or boss? Or perhaps what kind of character that would you like them to have seen in you? Or what achievements would you want them to remember? The things that you've done when you were still alive. And most importantly, what difference would you like to have made in their lives? Now, you can answer these questions only if you begin with the end in mind. If you consider the second habit, you can answer these questions only if you begin with the end in mind. Now, what does begin with end in mind mean? Begin with an end in mind means to start with a clear understanding of your destination. It means to know where you're going so that you better understand where you are now and so that the steps you take are always in the right direction. In other words, each part of your life, today's behavior, tomorrow's behavior, next week's behavior, next month, next year, can be examined in the context of the whole, of what really matters to you, the destination that you have identified, your goal. In other words, our lives are made up of everyday choices, and time will come, those choices that we've made will be bundled together, and it will show clearly what we value. So we have to visualize our destination. We need to know what we want, because knowing what we want is the first step in getting it. You just have to identify what you really want in life. And begin with the end in mind is based on the principle that all things are created twice. First, mental. This is the first creation. Second, the physical. And this is the second creation. Mental is the first creation, physical, the second creation. For example, you're planning to build a house. You want to identify how big the room is, how the interior would look like, the kitchen, um, the countertop, and perhaps you are also deciding how many rooms would you like to have, and the design of the house itself. You plan for all of these, and then you put in the blueprint before even starting to build it. I think I was able to describe the house that we would like to have, that we'd like to sell in the future. And I wish I could show you the design that I'd like to have for our house. But we are actually beginning with the end in mind and how we design the house that we want. And a different situation, perhaps you're planning to travel, to have a travel vacation. You try to begin with the end in mind. You try to identify which places that you're going to visit in the future, the activities that you're going to do. Perhaps you're also planning to buy some souvenirs for your family, for your friends, like, and perhaps you even counted the numbers and all that stuff. And you were trying to visualize what your vacation would look like. And when it comes to your business, um, probably many of you have business right now. And if you're going to begin with the end in mind, you try to think how much say would you like to make on a daily basis? Um, who are your target markets? The products that you have. Perhaps you're also trying to visualize how would you expand your business? Perhaps how many branches would you like to have in the future? And you're also trying to consider the things that you're doing now that will take you to that destination, that will help you realize the goals that you set. So, habit number one, be proactive. it tells us, or it actually teaches us to become the creators. It teaches us to become proactive. It teaches us to make things happen. It teaches us to become the creators. Habit number two, this is our first creation. We create in our mind. And when we realize it, we make it happen. It becomes our second creation. In other words, we live by design and not by default. We live by our values and our principles. We live according to the goals that we have set for our personal lives, and I don't by default, not by external um, forces like other people's agendas or the environment or the situation in your country, the government, whatever. We would like to emphasize here that we need to know what we really want. Now, most of us here in this class are Filipinos, if I'm not mistaken. And this phone right here is very familiar. This is very familiar. Uh, this is a Nokia 3310. During my time, this phone dominated the market. And it's actually a very interesting phone because it serves a variety of purposes. Well, of course, number one, you can message your family, your friends, you can call them. And for some people, they also use it as a knuckle when they fist fight, because it's so heavy and it's durable. No matter how many times it falls, it's still intact and it's durable. Yeah, you can still use it. And Nokia is that time one of the best examples of a company, an organization that lives the second habit, which is to begin with the end in mind. Um, the vision of Nokia during the time is to connect with people. That's why you can see their logo. Like there's a hand there, two hands trying to reach each other, trying to connect with each other. So its vision is to connect with people, help people to connect with one another. Second, they provided a durable and user-friendly phones, and they also pioneered the global system for mobile communication, which means you can have voice calls and send messages like that. So they dominated global markets because their vision was clear. However, around 2011 or 2013, um, Nokia started to, their sales started to go down because of their failure of living the habit number two, which is to begin with the end in mind. They failed to envision a future that will be dominated by smartphones and touchscreens. And perhaps they were also arrogant because they were very confident of the system that they had, and they failed to adapt to Android or iOS. And they were also lack of leadership. People were actually afraid to speak up, because uh, they were afraid to lose their job if they tried to speak the reality. And so what happened is there was a brand erosion. It led to declining consumer trust and market share. And little by little in the Philippines, at least by my experience, it gradually um, faded. We were not able to see Nokia innovate anymore. Um, this just actually demonstrates the timeless principle that is also written in the Bible that says, when there is no vision, people perish. So when there
Yeah.
is no vision, the organization perish. When there is no vision, an individual perishes. And I think that's huge, is very, very important to understand. Now, beginning with the end in mind teaches us to define success with clarity before acting. Oh, now guess what? We don't have to be in our deathbed to realize all this. We just have to begin with the end in mind now. we need to define what success looks like in whatever we do. If you're trying to, like me, I am just a brand new parent, brand new dad. Um, I am trying to begin with the end in mind here. I um, try to see and vision what kind of parent would I want for my daughter. Um, we should know what we want, know the price, then pay it. Now, the foundation is, I recognize that it teaches us to develop these habits. It teaches us to set long-term goals. That's what it teaches. Um, However, I also recognize that our foundation has brilliant systems created by a brilliant founder. If you enrolled people and have them watch and study here, you as an enroller, you will also earn a reward. Now, if you begin with the end in mind, you're going to think like, how many people would I like to enroll this week? And personally, how many or how much Buffett bucks would I like to have after a week or two? And how many people do I need to enroll in order for me to realize that goal? You have to begin with the end in mind. So it starts here. It starts here. It's our first creation. And then we make it happen. We become proactive, we make it happen, and we adjust along the way. You want to have more Buffett bucks, you have to enroll as many people. You have to watch videos and study here. You have to learn, earn, and return. So that's our mantra there. So if you begin with the end in mind and strive to be proactive in making the decisions and make things happen as you realize the goal that you want, I think that's gonna be a success in your part. So in closing, I just like to reiterate the things or the quote that is always being said here. Make a difference, make it happen. Remember that every life is precious. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Thanks, Ryan. That's pretty awesome. And again, the seven habits, we have steps, habits, secrets. It really comes down to what are your habits? What are the habits that you're doing on a daily basis? Success is a series of daily habits. And so that's why we do what we